I'm excited to announce our guest. We have a guest speaker today, Harrison Bocook. This is Harrison's picture and his wife, Marky. So cute. And Harrison is owner of the Harrison House Group. So he was licensed at 19, went full-time in 2020 when he graduated college and sold 42 homes his first year as a buyer agent on a team. He was also their lead recruiter, and this was a big team selling a lot of homes, and he had a very integral part in it from the beginning. But he found it just wasn't sustainable. Number one, long hours, working with multiple families, of course, every weekend, and he ended up feeling burnt out. And what he realized is that he was teaching the agents he was bringing to the team the same thing, a road to burnout. So now his mission is to share the story of how he transitioned his business from a buyer agent into a listing focused agent. He now has his own team in a new market and has hit the ground running. And he created a blueprint called List to Freedom Blueprint. And he's going to share it with us today. So let me make you a co-host here and I'll spotlight you. There you go. Welcome, Harrison. You can take it away.
Well, thank you. I don't think I'm worthy of that introduction at all. And the big difference for me and the big pivot for me was buyer agent on a team, obviously focusing on buyers. Now, that was exclusively buyers. So all 42 of those families were all buyers. So that most nights, definitely every weekend without question. And if you're not working on the weekends as a buyer's agent, you're in trouble. And so the big transition and the big pivot for me was learning how to become a listing agent. And this is timely because of the new NAR settlement and all of the stuff that's happened with that, which I think is been a little bit more tame than we were anticipating at the beginning. But so that's really what I want to talk about today. So I was thinking about what would be the best use of everybody's time on this call and what I would want to hear if I was listening and tuning into this. And so I broke it down into today discussing my two most profitable seller lead generation activities, and going over and discussing that today. So instead of going over everything, just highlighting the two activities that I do in my business. And we have some of our agents on our team on this call, what I've talked with them about doing in their business, that is very little money, if no money, to generate the lead and has the highest level of conversion. And so I'll go ahead and share my screen if that's okay with you, Stacy. I got some slides built out here. Can you see this okay?
Yes.
I'm sort of a novice when it comes to technology. But anyway, like I mentioned, the real estate storm is here. And what I put on here is that I believe only listing agents will survive in this new marketplace. It could be wrong, could be 100% wrong about that. But in my opinion, that's what's going to happen long-term in the future. If you don't know how to go get sellers consistently, you are going to be in trouble in the real estate business. Does anybody disagree with that, or does anybody agree with that? Can you maybe just share your thoughts or put it in there we go. I see somebody has their hand raised.
Hey, I actually think buyer's agents are going to continue to be valuable. I think a large percentage of our current buyer's agents are going to not stay in the business because they've not learned to level up their professionalism. But the people who do level up their professionalism as a buyer's agent are going to become seen just as valuable as listing agents are today. And it used to be this way a lot more. But there's so much that buyer's agents do for buyers that's not known. I think we're going to start articulating our value of what we do and how we protect buyers, that we will be seen on equal footing as a listing agent. Although I agree, I don't want to be a buyer's agent. I prefer to be a listing agent. But I think a lot of agents will not level up to that and will leave the business. That's my prediction. So I don't think buyer agency is going away. I think a lot of licensees who are not willing to level up to that are going to go away. That's just my input and my
I
guess.
think I agree 100% with that. I think that's a much better way to say it. And so it's scary though if you think about it for people that right now have the majority of their business coming from buyers. It is a little bit of a moment right now where, in my opinion, you better start figuring out a way to start representing sellers, because if you don't say what you just, or if you don't become what you just said, Janie, then you could have some trouble. So I put on here that I don't think we have any real friends in the real estate business. And I'm saying this from personal experience. Nobody really wants to teach you how to sell homes and how to become a listing agent. And there's a reason why, and I think that this is one of the big problems in the real estate business, is this factor. But I've been in real estate now for 7 years, feels like a lot longer than that. And when I say I have not been taught personally any of the stuff I'm going to share with you today, it's all just learned personal experience, that's 100% accurate to me. Now, maybe I'm not a good learner. Maybe I need to do more trainings and, talk to more people like Stacy who do stuff like this. But we have no friends in the real estate business. Nobody wants to teach you how to go get sellers. And when we're dealing with this post-NAR settlement world, that becomes a little bit of a challenge, and it becomes a little bit scary. So today we're going to talk about those two highest lead generation activities. Now, a quick public service announcement, which is, in order to generate these leads, you must be willing to talk to people. Now, some of this is on the phone. Most of what I'm going to talk about today is calling people. If you are not willing to call people, then what I'm going to talk to you about today probably will not help you. Obviously, there's other ways to do it. You can spend money on leads. You can spend money on direct mail. You can spend money on social media ads. You can spend money on Zillow. But to me, the best way to generate leads, especially at low cost or no cost, is to be willing to talk to people on the phone. So quick introduction about me. This is why I'm so passionate about this stuff. It's because of the story that Stacy just shared, which was early on was a buyer's agent in the business and had some success. And I thought everything was going well. Like, hey, I'm selling these homes. I've hit the six-figure market income, which is what I wanted to do. That was the main thing that I wanted to achieve. Grew into, started recruiting for that team and becoming a team lead for that real estate operation, bringing on other agents in order to have them come in and try to have some success early on. And so first full year in the business, 10 homes sold in a month. Everything's going great. Bringing on agents, recruiting, what we want to do in real estate. We want to recruit for EXP, doing training, doing new agent coaching. Everything's going great, but there was a massive problem. And Stacy kind of hit on the big problem. The team structure that I was on, every agent, including me, that was brought onto that team was assigned as the buyer's agent. So we weren't even real estate agents. We weren't real estate specialists or real estate consultants. No, we were buyer's agents. What does that mean? Well, that means if I had a listing that I wanted that they communicated with me, maybe it was a past client, maybe it was a friend of mine that wanted to sell their home, my job and my team agreement was to take that listing and pass it to the broker owner. So all of the activities that we were doing, me and the team, were exclusively buyer related. Now, to me, this is the normal team structure that I've seen and that I've experienced in real estate. You have a team lead who's been in the business for 5 years or 10 years. That person has had some success in real estate, so they're doing well, they're selling homes. They're ready to start their own team. And what is the first thing that team lead is going to leverage out? They're going to leverage out their buyers. They want the people coming in to handle their buyers while they can continue to represent the sellers that they have in their pipeline. Now, I know Lars, his team structure was a little bit different. Stacy's team structure was a little bit different. But in most cases, this is what I've seen is team lead comes in, they represent the sellers, they bring on buyer's agents, the buyers handle the buyers. Now, when you're a part of a real estate team, to me, how a team should be is you're there for a period of time to learn, to gain experience, and for that to be a transitional period for you in your real estate business. So you're on a team for maybe 12 months. You learn everything you need to learn, and then you're ready to graduate. The problem right now is most real estate teams are just in the business of giving agents experience and never teaching them what I think is the most valuable piece of the real estate business, which is becoming a listing agent. Now, can anybody share, am I wrong on this, talking about the team approach being mainly agents come in, agents are the buyer's agents for that team, and the team lead handles the majority of the listings? Do people have different experiences than me on that? See anybody?
I was going to say, I think you nailed it in terms of the training happens only on one side of the business. So it's a lot of teams, traditional teams, they weren't ever taught anything different. And so, like you said, as an agent, I only knew one side, one piece, and you guys were masters at it, which is great. But like what you're getting to here is that there's a whole other side of the business that is very lucrative as well, that sometimes agents aren't trained on at all.
I 100% agree. Stacy, are you walking on a treadmill right now?
Yes, I am.
Amazing. That is amazing. So yeah, and I agree. And this is exactly where we were. And what happens is a lot of agents, you're going to face massive burnout. And I know that's where I was 100%. And also the other issue is if you do have a listing and you do have a deal and the seller wants to work with you and somebody else is responsible for that listing, maybe it's the team lead, maybe it's the broker owner, you now do not have any control over the satisfaction of that client. If you're not the one doing the business and somebody else is doing the business, you know, if they're the one negotiating the contract, they're the one putting the listing up, then that client might have a really bad experience and they're going to blame you, even though you weren't the one technically doing it. And so for me, life as a buyer's agent didn't feel sustainable. There were multiple weeks where I would work 100-hour weeks. Some weekends would be filled with a buyer coming in on a Friday night, a separate buyer coming in on a Saturday morning, a separate buyer on Saturday afternoon, and a separate buyer on Sunday. There were multiple weekends like that where there's several different clients happening in the same weekend. And it felt like too much. So here, this was a family that bought the home behind them. And in that same weekend, we sold all of those 3 homes from these 3 clients. And so we put up this graphic, or I put up this graphic where at 22 years old, I had sold 10 homes in 1 month. And from the outside perspective, hey, everything's going great. I was getting texts and calls from all my friends. Hey, man, you're killing it, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't killing it. It was killing me. And so there's a cost associated with that. And then last thing is the first real estate vacation for me was everybody remembers their first vacation in real estate. Mine was we were really excited to go on a trip, and everybody knows right when you get ready to go on vacation, that's when your phone starts ringing. That's when things start going crazy for you in real estate. And when you're a buyer's focused agent, if you're not available, if you're gone or you're out of town and you're not available to show that buyer a home, guess what that buyer's going to do? They're going to find somebody who's in the area that can show them that home. And so I had my wife take this picture of me, which is a really cringy picture on the left. But I wanted to remember this moment because I'm like, something after this, I knew something needed to change. There was no reason, or there had to be a different way than we go on vacation, you finally take a break where you feel like you're working nonstop, and then you get there and you're working the entire vacation. And so I said, Marky, take this picture of me because I want to remember this. This was me. If you see the screen, this was my .loop account where we wrote an offer on a house that 30 or 45 days later, the family beside me on the right ended up closing on. But I said, Marky, remember to take this picture so we can remember this moment, because from here on out, something has to change. This cannot be a sustainable way to do things. And so a thought was, do I give up real estate? You know, I've talked to a lot of agents who have had this conversation with themselves right here of they feel like it's time for them to give up. And it's a shame and it's sad because a lot of people on this call, we realize how good the real estate business and profession is and can be. But if you're on the other side, or if you were like where I was, where you've had some success in real estate, but it's mainly on one side of the business and you're feeling burnt out, you don't really know what the life of a really good and successful real estate agent can be like. Maybe you're not Jamie, or maybe you're not Stacy, or maybe you're not Joe Grant who knows how to sell homes. Maybe you're that newer real estate agent like I was on a team, was on that team for 4 years, had some success representing buyers, but have not been able to transition into that next phase of real estate. And so you think about giving up. And this is when everything changed for me, is selling this house that I have behind me on this slide. And there's pivot points in life, I believe, and there's signs that we are given that if we take a break from what we're doing and actually listen to the signs, they can change a lot of things for us. So for me, it was selling the home right here. And this was kind of a perfect case scenario because I was representing the buyer on this home. My team lead, or my broker owner, who I've been telling you guys about that held all the listings, they were representing the seller on this home. And so we did an activity, or I did an activity saying, how much time did I put into my buyer selling this home? And I calculated 37 hours. Now, what does that 37 hours mean? Well, that means they came in as an online lead 6 months before they were ready. I cultivated a relationship with them. I went and did videos of neighborhoods. I went and did videos of schools. I got them ready to come into town. We looked at homes on Friday. We looked at homes on Saturday. We looked at homes on Sunday. We wrote an offer on Monday, and by Tuesday, we had the home under contract. Then we did inspections, and then we did repairs, and then we got the deal closed. So there was 37 hours worth of work into these buyers. The listing agent, who happened to be my broker owner, told me that he had 4 hours worth of work into the seller. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. We just sold the same exact house. He got paid more money than I did, actually, because in our market, the listing agent usually makes a little bit more. And I had worked 9 times the amount of hours in my client selling the same home as the listing agent did on his client. Now, this was the COVID market where you could list a home on a Thursday, you have showings on Friday and Saturday, and you negotiate the offer, and things happen relatively quickly. So this is a balance, obviously. Not all sellers are going to take 4 hours. Not all buyers are going to take 37. But this was an important example for me, and this is what drove me to want to become and learn how to do the listing side of the business. So using the amount of hours, we know what each of the parties got paid. I calculated that I made $66 an hour on my buyer. Hey, that's pretty good for me. I think I was 22, 23 years old at the time, making $66 an hour. I feel like a big shot. Everything's going great. Until I realized what the listing agent made selling the same house. The listing agent made $1,300 for every hour of work he put into that seller. Whoa, that right there changed a lot of things for me. So I was making this, which I was happy for. Because, hey, it's a deal. And a lot of times these buyers come in, or sometimes these buyers can come in and you never get the deal. And the listing agent was making that per hour. Broken down a different way, calculating for the amount of money they made, for the amount of time they put in, this is how it looked. This was my piece of the pie. This was the listing agent's piece of the pie. So it didn't take too long for me to realize that I had failed massively. I was focusing on all of the wrong things. And the thing that bothered me wasn't that I had personally failed, because I personally fail all the time. That's nothing new for me. What I felt really bad about is all of the agents I was bringing on to that team structure, I was teaching how to go get that. And to me, most real estate teams and most real estate businesses are teaching how to go get this. They want to leave all of that on the table for the broker owners or for the team leads or the people that have been in the business for a long period of time. Now, maybe some of you on this call are used to this bottom bar graph right here. If you are, and you're teaching your team how to go get this message is for the agents on your team. Because what's eventually going to happen to those people is when they come to the realization that I did, that hold on, wait a minute, I'm leaving almost $1,300 of dollar per hour activity on the table. They're going to leave your team and they're going to go try to figure this thing out on their own. You might as well keep them a part of your ecosystem and teach them how to go become a listing agent so that they have some more loyalty to you. So that's really was the pivot point for me in the business, which was, hey, this is what I needed to see. It was time to transition into a listing agent. But this is the big question. How do you do it? And when you have the broker owner holding all the listings, you're not going to learn from the broker owner. Maybe there's some online training you can learn, but how I did it, to me, this is the big problem in real estate, is what we just talked about right here. Listings are so valuable that people don't want to share what they do to get them. It's treated very much like a zero-sum game. If I teach the agent on the other side of me how to go get sellers, they're taking business and they're taking money away from me and my family. That to me is why nobody wants to teach people how to go get sellers. So what I did is I went in and studied all of the top real estate producers that I could. I looked at my broker owner. I looked at people like Stacy. I looked at people like Lars. I looked at people like Jim Brantley here in Charleston. What are they doing? And the first thing I realized was if you're a good listing agent, typically that means you're relying a lot on your past clients, or you have a lot of money maybe to push towards promotional activities and marketing, direct mail and things like that. Those were off the table for me. I was not in the business for a long period of time. I did have past clients that I could work with, and I did. But I didn't have a lot of money to go put towards owning a neighborhood or farming a neighborhood. So everything that it wasn't just me, but some of the people with me learned on this was how to do this without spending a ton of money on paid leads. Anybody can sell homes if you have a lot of money on paid leads. Can you be profitable in your real estate business? Can you pivot to your real estate business? And my first 6 months away from the team and on my own, I generated over $150,000 of commissions. The bigger thing to me was I grew my average check size from a little over $4,000, which was half of what the gross commission income was while I was on the team, to over $18,000 in a check size. And so this whole thing is pivoting away from the working harder approach to not only working hard, but also putting your energy and activity into working smart. So with all of that being said, let me get into, or I guess let me break there first before I get into my two most profitable seller lead generation activities. Any discussion or any question before we get into that from anybody?
I think you're good. We got about 6 to 8 minutes, so you got to motor through.
Sorry, I'm very long-winded, Stacey. I apologize.
You're fine.
So sorry, let me get into this right here. And all right, here we go. So let me motor through these really quick. So for the two most profitable lead gen activities for me, they're broken down into two categories. One is consistently generating seller leads from people that we know. The second is consistently generating leads from people who we do not know. So the first one for me was the monster of a real thing that we all hear about in the real estate business, but it was sitting down and actually building out my database. I think Lars and Stacy, they call it their database engagement system, but it's sitting down and realize, okay, there's a lot of people that I know that will use me if I effectively touch them enough, not literally, but figuratively, or put them in an ecosystem where they're getting a call from me, a text from me, or an email from me. There are so many really, really, really strong agents that I talk to that have come on board with us at EXP strictly and only because they wanted help building this out right here. I was amazed by how many top producers do not have a legitimate database built out in their real estate business. Now, what I want to talk to on the database is not just the database build out, it's what I call the trusted inner circle. In building out your trusted inner circle, which for me has been for every 25 people I add into my trusted circle, it generates about 6 deals a year for me. So if you got 50, that's a deal a month. I'll skip through the database. Everybody's heard about the database build out. I really want to hit on my biggest deal ever came from a database. This deal was somebody that was the servicer. He worked in the service department of where I got my car serviced, built a relationship with him, got his name, got his contact information, and I sold his house. This was a friend from school, a friend of a friend. This was actually a friend from somebody that was in my database who referred this person to me because they were getting my weekly newsletter and weekly email. But the trusted inner circle build out, this is what I want to talk about. This right here is, when I talk about these are the two most profitable lead generators, this right here is the most profitable in my opinion. These are the people that you are closest to in your database. In my opinion, these people need to get a personal call from you at least once a week. Okay. Now this call can be 5 minutes, this call can be 10 minutes, but you need to call these people at least once a week. If not once a week, maybe three times a month. You are not allowed to talk real estate with these people. You can talk everything else, life, business, politics, kids, religion. Okay. But we don't talk real estate. Obviously real estate will come up when they ask you, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing great. This is real estate. Like I said, for every 25 people, it should produce about 6 deals a year. Quick example, which is Troy. Troy was the best man in my wedding, really good friend of mine, who now just got his real estate license because I told him how many deals he's personally referred to me. And now he realized, hey, I'm going to stop referring these deals to you and I'm going to get my license. Me and Troy have known each other since we were kids. Troy has never personally bought a home from me, but every day, me and Troy talk on the phone about whatever. Maybe it's politics, maybe it's something dumb, maybe it's sports, whatever it is. But I am top of mind with Troy anytime and every time he thinks about real estate because the dude gets sick of me because every day I'm calling him. Well, Troy has personally referred 7 real estate clients to me over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. Because anytime Troy thinks about real estate, Troy thinks about me. In my opinion, everybody should have and find their Troy in real estate. Find that person who is as loyal to you as anybody else will be, that you are constantly talking to, because if you're not constantly talking to this person, they will not feel the need or the desire to refer business to you. They'll forget about you, or they're having a conversation about somebody with somebody about real estate, and you haven't talked to them in 3 or 4 weeks, and so they forget about you. Find your Troy. There's one more that I want to hit on. Not all wins. I had somebody at my wedding right here who did not get a personal call from me, and I missed out on a deal. Stacy, do I have time to hit on the second most profitable lead generator?
Yeah, for sure. Hit on it quick, because I think everybody wants to know what that is.
Okay, quick is the second one is getting consistent seller leads from people who you do not know, and it's doing it through an expired listing conversion system. This is not a cold call expired listing conversion system. Okay, what we do in our expired listing, and I'll stop sharing and I'll just talk about this one, Stacy, so we don't have to go through the slides on it. But how we have our expired listing system built out, we are not going to call, like pull data from RedX or from Vulcan 7 or anything like that and just pick up the phone and start calling these people. What we are going to do is we're going to build out our pipeline of buyers. What buyers do we have in the marketplace? Maybe it's friends, maybe it's family, maybe it's leads. A quick example for me is I had a family coming in from Michigan, husband and wife, 1 kid. They were looking up to $1 million here. And I knew without a shadow of a doubt they were going to buy here. He had job relocation. He was going to come in. And so he's a perfect buyer to not just rely on that family and that business, which they closed on a $900,000 buyer for me, but also not use them, but have them as your buyer to call the expired listings that fit the criteria that that family was looking for. So I knew the neighborhoods that they liked. I knew the price points they were in. There was about 5 expired listings that I thought fit the description that they were looking for. I called all 5, and instead of having a conversation, which is, hey, I'm a real estate agent. I'd love to help you out if you're still interested in selling. I'd love to show you what we can do, how we market your home, how we can get it sold. No, that's what everybody else does. Instead, the conversation goes, hey, Mr. Seller, this is Harrison Bocook. I'm a local real estate broker in town. I'm sorry to call you out of the blue, but I have a family coming in from Michigan who's looking at a home similar to what your home is. Looking in this area, they need to move by this time. I like to get really specific with these calls because the sellers want to know. The sellers can sniff out if you're just lying to them about a buyer, if you're being serious. This family's coming into town this weekend. I think they would like your home. Would you be interested in selling your home if you got whatever the last list price was? And ask them that question. I have been amazed, and the people in our community, in our group, and on our team have been amazed how well that conversation right there goes. Because we're not calling to sell them on anything. In fact, Mr. Seller, I'm sorry I'm calling you. I hate calling you like this. But I have a buyer that might be interested in your home. This is my duty as a real estate agent to help you or to help my buyer find a home. It's low inventory right now. I think they would like your home. Would you guys still be interested in selling? So that one buyer who is coming in from Michigan, they bought an $800,000 new construction home with me. They also got me a $550,000 listing in Richmond Hill and a $715,000 listing in Richmond Hill because I called the sellers and told them, hey, I had a buyer interested. got the buyers to look at those 2 homes. The buy, it wasn't for them, but you have a conversation with the seller. Hey, Mr. Seller, thank you for getting us in. This buyer, this wasn't the exact perfect home for them, but I know I can sell the home on the market for the last list price that you told me. I'd love an opportunity to interview for the job. So those 2 things, actually building out the database, consistently generating seller leads from people who you know and know you. That's most profitable, number 1. Most profitable, number 2, is building out our pipeline of buyers and reversing that into communicating with expired listings. Helps you from having to feel like you're cold calling the seller. And those 2 have been massively profitable for us. And there we go. So sorry, Stacey, I was way too long on that.
No problem. There is a question. How many listings a year do you generate from your expired strategy?
How consistently am I doing it? I mean, if I truly sat down and consistently did it, then there's no reason why it shouldn't produce anywhere between 4 or 5 new listings every single month. And I have a new agent. His name is Brennan, who I think is on this call. And he did something similar to this when he first got licensed. Is he pulled a COVID list, actually. So there was an expired listing list from, he pulled it from like the start of COVID through like 180 days out, or maybe a little bit longer. And he pulled a listing that was listed in 2021, August of 21, I believe. He called her up, set the appointment. She was interested in selling, miraculously. And he was like 45 days in the business, and he took his first listing and sold it all in the same 45 days, while also having a baby. Well, his wife had a baby, and getting married all in the same 45 days. And I'm like, Brendan, this would not be possible. If you're worrying about the buyers like I did when I first started in the business, you don't have the ability to be able to be as efficient on the transaction. Like, you're going to be running around with the buyers like I was doing, where you could just pick up the phone and have a really targeted seller call. Hey, Miss Seller, I saw you had your home for sale. Is it still available, or did it sell? I might have a buyer for you. Are you interested? And going through that, hopefully that explains it.
But do you actually have buyers for these?
Yes,
homes?
yes, that's very, very important. So absolutely.
Because you're saying not to work with buyers, but then you have all these buyers to match up with 5 or 6 expireds per month. I'm just trying to understand that.
Well, that's a good question. So when we talk about becoming a listing agent, are we only going to exclusively be a listing agent? Or does that listing, when you pull a listing and you sell the home, they're gonna want to buy something. So you're gonna obviously work with them if you're gonna represent them to buy. You get personal referrals. So the family that I used for the Michigan one, they were a personal referral for me. So I'm working with them. They're still gonna be a buyer for me.
Got it.
But I want to use that buyer to also try to generate seller leads, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was just saying, I think one of your points is that be a multifaceted agent. So if you're just working with buyers, great. That also produces income. If you haven't learned the listing side, it's definitely worth it to learn both sides so you can help agents know or help clients no matter the market. And then the 2 sources that you shared are a way to get into listings without having to spend a ton of money.
Thank you, Stacey. That's a great way to put it. And it really comes from like the agent that I was, which is you're so reliant on a team and you don't know how to break free from that.
And those leads.
To me, a lot of those people they'll be in trouble with the new changes that are happening. And so how do you get into the listing space? How do you learn how to do it? Where do you find the leads to start working with sellers? It's really for that person, Janie, is to try to help them get into the listing game and to get into the listing space, because that's where I was. And, you know, you learn it because you have to. But I know a lot of people that are on that team approach that tell me, hey, Harrison, I don't want to represent sellers. Like, they're so used to working with buyers, and that's all they know is working with buyers.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week.